Hello everyone, and a very happy World Migratory Bird Day to you. It is a beautiful day down here at Stony Point, and my name is Jax. I'm going to be your naturalist down here today. We have Jason behind the camera, and we've chosen to be at Breakwater. So if you have a look at the breakwater now, you'll see that it is quite empty. 10 minutes ago, this breakwater was absolutely covered in Cape cormorants. And now we have the sum total of 4 Cape cormorants left on the breakwater. So we didn't have an unlucky Friday the 13th, but certainly an unlucky start to today. And this is a live show, so please do send us your comments and questions. You can do that using our channels page. You can do that using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. And you can also email us if you're under the age of 18 at kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. So despite our cormorants having left us, we're happy to be at the breakwater. We've got the crazy eights around, we've got lots of heartlip gulls, we can see dussies, we've got some penguins to the right of us. And today really is a stunning autumn day. The wind that we had this morning has dropped down. It's almost completely wind still. The sun is shining. We still have lots of big ocean swell, which is remnant of a big storm in the Southern Ocean. Let's go have a look at the weather reports and see what they have to say. The 17 degrees always feels very different depending on whether or not there is sun and rain. But we are moving towards the high tide mark here at the breakwater. And you can see that the water does make its way through the rocks here. But behind the rocks, it provides a very protected area for our birds to swim and to frolic. And I think that's why the parents of the crazy eights, Mark and Cleo, are swimming here. I like that, ready to waddle. Thank you for watching the show, Don. We will definitely show you some penguins just a bit later. I think we're going to start the show off with our crazy eights, who are hanging out in between the heartlip gulls. And Mark and Cleo are keeping an eye on them. So you can see the chicks actually move out the way for the heartlip gulls. They know their place. The adults would never. The adults think that they are the rulers of this roost. But the chicks are still a bit nervous. They realize that they're smaller. And I think that the geese and the heartlip gulls are feeding on little bits of algae that have collected in this corner. So I think the water is washing all of these bits of algae and perhaps some sea invertebrates here. And occasionally you'll just see them all pecking at the water.
If you are a WildEarth explorer, we have exciting news for you.
The winner of this month's prize giveaway will win a hamper full of Explorer merchandise.
Like this fantastic t-shirt that comes in plenty of great colors, a very useful tote bag, or even a cap.
For those in the southern hemisphere that's heading into winter, a sweatshirt to keep you warm.
Head over to the WildEarth Explorers page. Sign up to be a WildEarth Explorer and you could win all of these goodies.
WildEarth, it's in your nature.
Hukamore. Oh, here's an impressive looking male leopard. Look at that neck on him. He just looks ready for a fight.
This is only the 3rd time that we are seeing him that is known as the Hukamuri male, and he certainly has a lot of character and atmosphere.
This is gorgeous. Hukamuri having a drink at one of the little seasonal pans.
Isn't he absolutely gorgeous? Compact, powerful, focused. I love it.
If you tune into yesterday's show, yesterday was Friday the 13th, but we also had some interesting sights, and yesterday we had a lot of terns around. Kwezi, thank you for watching. We're very glad that you're happy to see us. That puts a smile on our faces down here. And I think the Crazy Eights are also very glad because they are showing off so nicely for us, so showing off their swimming capabilities. So yesterday the scene here was very different. I think there was a lot of fish in the water, and so we had lots of terns around, we had lots of gulls around. And today it doesn't seem to be quite as fishy at Stony Point. And I was really hoping that we'd find some terns today, and still hope we might see them on the show, because if you look at this little duckling that we are staring at, these little guys are not migratory birds. So Egyptian geese are residents to the area. They will move up and down in South Africa and can actually move fairly far. But when I think of migratory birds, I'm talking about birds that would move from Europe to Africa. There's lots of them in the bush. We also get a lot of oceanic birds that do this. And we are looking at an Egyptian goose or Egyptian geese at the moment. But back in the day, people actually didn't know that birds were migratory. They didn't understand the whole concept of it. And so there's a goose in the world called the barnacle goose. And the barnacle goose is a migratory species. And sailors didn't ever see the chicks of these geese. They didn't know where they came from. And so it was actually assumed that the goose, the barnacle goose, came from what we call the gooseneck barnacle, which is a barnacle that grows on little creatures out at sea, or little flotsam, things that drift. And so bird migration was not always understood by people. So the goose, or the barnacle goose, is migratory, but the Egyptian goose is not. So these little ducklings are likely to spend their lives in South Africa. It's actually believed that when these little geese grow up, the female geese might stay closer to the area than the males, who will disperse. Although the Crazy Eights still have a few months to go before they will go their separate ways from their parents. I actually can't believe how much that they've grown in the last few weeks. Kenneth, that is an incredible question, and one I should have thought of before I mentioned World Migratory Bird Day, but I honestly don't know. I was looking at migratory seabirds, but that is an incredible question. So Kenneth, what I'll do, I'm on the show again tomorrow. I'm going to answer your question tomorrow on the show. I hope you're happy with that, because we have oceanic migrants, and we have several that migrate at this time of year, or in fact throughout the year. But in the bush, your bee-eaters are, some of your bee-eaters are migratory. You have some of your kingfishers that are migratory, and you get different migrations. So you get inter-African migrants, so birds that stay in Africa but migrate up and down. You get birds that travel between Africa and Europe. So excellent question. I will be answering that on tomorrow's show. And Jason's just found some penguins who've run past us along the breakwater.
All WildEarth explorers have a chance to join our naturalists in a monthly Fireside chat. This is a great way to learn more about our guides, animal characters, and wildlife locations. We would love to hear from you as to the topics that interest you the most. Email us your ideas or tweet using the hashtag WildEarth, and we will be sure to take them into account when planning our evenings around the fire in the future. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
So we're looking at a scene that you would only really see at the breakwater, where you've got dussies, geese and heartlip gulls in the same frame. So it's Salt and Pepper. I don't think I've seen your name on the show before. Welcome to Penguin Beach, and yes, there's a lot of wildlife. There's always a lot of abundance and a lot of diversity at the breakwater. If we move towards the edge of the breakwater, we've also got some other birds about, so we started off with them, but we have some Cape cormorants. We also have a white-breasted cormorant, as well as a heartlip gull who's resting. So most of the birds that we see here at Stony Point are non-migratory. They live here. The Cape cormorants, however, those that live on the west coast of South Africa will sometimes undertake a bit of a migration towards Angola. And for many years, scientists really haven't understood how birds know how to navigate. How do they find their way home? How do they migrate? And what's widely accepted now is that birds actually use electromagnetic fields, and that they can see these fields. Something has spooked these birds and they are on their way. Oh, and we've got some penguins in the water just in front of us, and a white-breasted cormorant with the penguins. They've all just taken a dive now. You can see that this rough sea has churned up lots of foam. So Sharon, thank you for joining us, and you're asking us if there are any birds at Stony Point that alarm call. I think that the water thickneys, the dickops that we see at Cormorant Cove, I think they alarm call. They make a big noise if they are threatened. I feel that penguins would alarm call if there was predators here at night. I have a strong suspicion that they would make a noise because they are confined to their burrows, they're protecting their chicks, and I feel like penguins would then make a noise. I wouldn't say that cormorants necessarily alarm. I think the Cape cormorants might. They might make a sound, and then that might cause the others to leave, but I wouldn't say in a situation like this where there's only a few birds. I think that's often when they're in large colonies. Heartlip gulls will alarm call, kelp gulls will alarm call, Egyptian geese, if they've got rivals around, or if they've got animals that are threatening their chicks, they will also alarm call. So in fact, many of them will. I wouldn't say I've ever heard a Cape wagtail alarm call. Don't think that they do. I think I've read something about our sacred ibis that we see over in the left wing eating the little invertebrates off the kelp. I think they would alarm call. Hadidars often, if you frighten them. I think that's a very famous South African call. So the answer is actually many of our birds do. Most of the birds that we watch here actually will give off a distress call. But most of these birds would be silent at sea.
Watch out for southern ground hornbills. If you see one, then a curse could befall you. Seeing a hyena could bring out the witches, and spotting a snake track could give you a rash. On Friday the 13th of May, WildEarth will be setting off on a special unlucky safari, where we search for things that bring bad luck. Are these just mythical superstitions, or could they be true? Join us to find out.
Look at that, there's a tiny leopard cub. Karula has given birth overnight. Look at the little guy who just came around the corner. That is incredible, that's probably his first solo kill.
Oh, that is wonderful. Oh, and have a look, here comes Osana with the monitor lizard.
Osana, of course, at the same time decided to go climbing up the tree. He's just nearly fallen out of it again.
Look at that, he's running away. The buffalo is chasing Osana at the moment.
So we are looking at some penguins who are relaxing on the rocks. They've got just a high enough perch so that the high tide is not hitting them there. And Penguin Beaches, I have a question for you today, and you can send in your answers to our channels page. What we're going to do, we're just going to wipe the lens quickly. It looks like we might have some sea spray on the lens, so soon you will see that we have a cloth in the frame. But while Jason does that, I will ask you my question, and that is, what is the bird with the longest migration in the world? It's actually, I believe, the animal with the longest migration in the world. It is a bird species that we could see on the show. We have not yet seen them on the show. But if you have any idea which bird has the longest migration, then send in your answers to Gwyn, our director, and she will let me know if anybody gets it right. So a little clue is that we got to see some of their cousins on the show yesterday. And the crazy eights have been swimming for a very long time. We're looking at the gulls just above them. So the heart-lips gulls are relaxing on the rocks. They really have been out and about on the move today. This heart-lips gull looks like he's settling in for a preen. And typically when we're watching the crazy eights, we're seeing them over in the left wing, and they're often just bumbling about on the shoreline and trying to eat. It's very cool to watch them feed in the water. Brenda, that's a really interesting question. The least amount of distance. I believe there's actually some birds that migrate. There's one bird that we see at Stony Point, and I can't think of exactly the name. It's gone blank to me. But there's one bird at Stony Point that actually migrates from higher altitudes in South Africa. So there's a country inside South Africa called Lesotho, and this particular bird moves from the higher reaches of Lesotho down, I think in the winter months. And my brain has gone blank as to which one it is. Don't think it's the Egyptian goose. I will have to go back to the Roberts Bird book and have a look at that. So I will just confirm that for you and give you the answer tomorrow. I'm loving these questions. We've got 2 unanswered questions already for tomorrow, so that's very exciting. The one is about how many birds migrate to South Africa, and the other is now the shortest migration. But I believe it is a bird that we see here where there's actually some migratory movement in the species. I just can't for the life of me think which one it is. Might be the ibis, actually. It's amazing how the brain has information. It's stored somewhere, and very often you remember it as soon as you're not with the people anymore. So I'll probably remember it on the drive home, or wake up in the middle of the night and come up with the answer. We've got 2 Cape cormorants who've settled down back on the rocks now. So before any bird migrates, their body actually undergoes a change, which I think is quite amazing. So their gizzard gets smaller, their gut gets smaller, their flight muscles will become bigger, which makes sense. They'll be flying a lot, their lungs will also become larger. And most birds, before they migrate, know that they need to be really fat to make that migration. Some birds can feed along the way, others can't. And so a lot of birds will pick up a lot of weight before migrating. So I do wonder if it's the same for these Cape cormorants when they do migrate along the coast. This cormorant is fluffing out its wings, drying off. And that fluffing out in the sun can also help aid digestion, actually, if this bird has caught something to eat this morning.
Find a way into the kill to eat, get their fill in there as well. But they're also going to be told off. See, lions are not great at sharing their food. Okay, guys. Let me just taking frustration out on the other lion, but you see, it was interesting.
In the woodlands of Juma lives a lion pride with a taste for buffalo.
Look, 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 this is insane. Now, this is what I was saying about lions and buffalo. It's absolute pandemonium.
WildEarth have been privileged to follow the Nkuhuma pride for many years. One of the most loved cats in the pride is Amber Eyes. She was not successful in rearing her first 2 litter of cubs and was seen as an aunt to the other youngsters. Then eventually, towards the end of August 2019, we found her with 4 tiny cubs of her own.
So you've just taken a wider view of the breakwater. You've still got the crazy 8 swimming. And I think the parents are actually swim training them because they're swimming them up and down. And actually one of the ducklings is very far away from the rest. So we've got one lone duckling at the back who has realized its fault and is now really trying hard to catch up with its parents. So this isn't the ugly duckling, but this is certainly the duckling in the most danger. And you can see the mom's actually calling for him. So crazy, I believe that they were actually sacred in Egypt. Egyptian geese are found in Egypt, and often where Westerners discovered birds, they would name it after the region. But I believe that in Egypt, these birds are considered sacred. So they are, I don't believe they're worshipped, but they have some sort of status in Egyptian culture. So it can be seen along the Nile River in Egypt. But Egyptian geese have actually colonized many areas in the world. I think they've colonized America, they've colonized countries in Europe, to my knowledge. But very often it's like the Cape wagtail. They occur in many areas of the country, but because European settlers, when they first started naming things here, saw them in the Cape, you'll find that a lot of the animals, even the buffalo is the Cape buffalo. There are no natural wild roaming buffalo in the Cape anymore. This area used to actually have buffalo, and there is an area up the coast about 2 hours to the east of us that are trying to reintroduce it. But often animals are named after the area they were seen by Western settlers, or named after the person who discovered them, or a scientist who was somehow involved in their discovery. And all of the ducklings are together again. It was incredible to watch how the mother actually called for that chick, and then the chick made its way towards the rest. And I think Mark and Cleo are really fantastic parents. They've done such a good job of keeping 9 little ducklings alive, which I think is an extremely impressive job, with all the gulls hanging around, other predators about. Salt and pepper, I completely agree. There's nothing cuter than a duckling. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find something that can capture people quite like watching a bunch of ducklings hanging out. Let's see what else we can find here. At the breakwater, let's see what else is happening in the area. So just because it is World Migratory Bird Day, I don't think we're going to have any migratory birds showing up. We do, however, have a dussie who's eating.
My name is Tessa. I studied animals and insects, and I specialized in African vertebrate biodiversity. But first and foremost, I am a naturalist here at WildEarth. What inspired me to become a naturalist was a combination of a childhood love and passion for wildlife from our family holidays. It just became this amazing passion, and it ignited this fire that just would not go away. To me, the skills that a naturalist should have would be that passion, making sure that you know why you've got that passion and keeping it going no matter what. The determination to never give up, because it's not the easiest place to be, but I can tell you in my experience it's the best place to be with the biggest differences that you can make. If I could be any animal, I think I would be a leopard. To me, they're the perfect combination of elegance and power and determination and independence, and yet just so beautiful.
So we are giving you a view of a dussie bum. This dussie is on the move, it's leaving the area. And these dussies use the rocks to their advantage. That's how they evade predators. Okay, so the first answer we have for my question is from Christine, and Christine says it's a short-tailed shearwater, and the shearwaters are very well known for traveling insane distances, but that's actually not the answer that I'm looking for. So shearwaters are quite a bit bigger than the bird that I'm talking about. Shearwaters do circumnavigate the globe, so they do travel very, very far. But the bird I'm talking about moves between two very distinct areas of our globe. But I really love my shearwaters. They are one of my favorite birds. And the theme of this year's World Migratory Bird Day is actually focusing specifically on how to help migrating birds, because humans do a couple of things that are not too helpful. And one of the things that we do is that we have a lot of light at night. And so if you really want to help birds migrate, the best thing you can do is actually not to have your lights on at night, and if you need to have night lights, then instead of having night lights that are on the whole night, what you would do is you would put those sensor lights so that if something moves, the sensor goes on, but that would just reduce your light pollution, because light pollution actually confuses birds that migrate at night. And I believe it's Emma who said pectoral sandpiper. So you're all on the right vein. So it is definitely your seabirds that migrate the longest. And sandpipers do have a very long migration. But this bird that I'm talking about, it's not a wading bird. So it's not a shorebird. It's not a wading bird. It is a bird that spends a lot of time in the air. If we see the cousins of this bird, we very rarely get to see them sitting. They're often just fluttering about. I'm loving these answers. So Stefan says the black-polled warbler, and that's also not the right answer. A warbler would be an inland bird. So the bird that I'm talking about is a seabird. So in this family, there's, you know, so many different species of this seabird, but this one that I'm talking about, actually, I wonder if you guys will get this clue. So think about one of our most common watches. Kathy Lee, not only are you trying to spot characters on the show, you also have the correct answer, and the seabird that is the most migratory bird, in fact, in the world, is the Arctic tern. And Arctic terns travel quite literally from the Arctic to the Antarctic every year. They live about 30 years, so they can travel over 1 million kilometers in their lifetime. So the Arctic terns are birds that we would see here in our summer months. We've never seen them on Penguin Beach. Next time we have terns on the show, I've actually got my bird books with me, and I want us to look at the terns and compare them. The Arctic tern has an insane migration. They migrate here in the summer months from the Arctic, from Greenland. It takes them about 3 months to get here, and when they want to go back from, not only here, but in fact from Antarctica, what they will do is they'll take only about 40 days, 6 weeks to get home, which I find absolutely incredible. So the Arctic tern is a polar Arctic migrant. So they move between almost the North and the South Pole. The terns we had on screen yesterday was the common tern, but at this time of year we can also have a look out for the Antarctic tern, which we will do throughout the winter season. But thank you so much for playing, guys. Let's chat about what we are looking at the moment. Jason is trying very hard to find us some interesting sights, and I think he's looking out for some penguins for us now. Looks like we're going to have a look at some of our cormorants who are hanging out. You'll see we've got lots of cormorants sitting on the rocks today, and they're all just relaxing. We'll also just go have a look at the ocean quickly and just show you those really big swells and all of that sea foam. So I did find an article the other day that says that your small grazers, so animals in the intertidal zone, will actually eat the foam. We've got 3 naughty penguins who are running by us. They always look like they're doing something wrong when they pass by in this area.
My favorite thing about WildEarth are the animals and the interaction and the ability to wait and watch and not rush off. You get to watch their behavior and learn about the individuals. I would like to see the hyenas at the hyena den, and I have. Look at that. If I could be any animal, I would be a cheetah. I would love to run fast.
Our Western Cape coastline is graced with the Cape fur seal. This playful species is curious and entertaining. At Hout Bay Seal Rescue Center, seals in need are rescued, fed and nursed back to health by our well-trained team of dedicated staff and volunteers. This wonderful legacy of the center is continued as these protected creatures are rehabilitated and released back into the wild.
So I think that is a mesmerizing sight to watch those waves crash. You can see all that foam being churned up in that area there. So the swell today is supposed to be about 4 meters. I think it's dropped. I think it's only about 3. Certainly doesn't look that high in this area. And you'll see we just have a ton of foam that will be carried down towards the beach. And that foam has a very distinct smell. I actually really like the smell. It reminds me of the sea and working at sea. Nancy, that's a very interesting question. You're asking about the greater striped swallow. We do get a swallow species here. And I'm actually looking in the bird book because I don't think it was the greatest striped. It was another species. I think that they have head off consequently because it is winter here. So I think that a lot of our migratory bird species that are here in the summer have made their way out the area. I'm trying to think what swallow it was now. Let me have a look in the bird book and see what the bird book says. So it's always nice when you are out in nature to have a reference book with you. I think it is the lesser stripe that we had, 258. Let's have a look. Was it the lesser striped? The white-throated. I think it was the white-throated actually swallow that we were watching here. The greater striped can occur in the area. I've not seen it at Stony Point, but I started at Stony Point towards the end of the summer season. So in theory, they would be hanging around. But at Stony Point, we don't have that many crevices, I think, for many swallows to live. Often the swallows here will build their nests in people's homes, so they will build it where people have a stoop, so sort of a little roof covering, and then people will have an outside area, and the swallows will build their nests there. So greater striped swallows would occur, but I've seen the white-throated swallow here. That's a very interesting question. We've had some different questions today, which has been really nice. I think we should head on over and see what our animals are getting up to. So at high tide now, a lot of the coves where our penguins usually sit can't be occupied, so the animals will sit a little bit higher on the rocks. And I was saying earlier with the cormorants, they seem to have a very good sense of how high the waves will come on the rocks. Sometimes a freak storm will wash their nests off. But in general, I think they have a good sense of what wave height is and where is a safe place to nest and to sit. And you can see we've got some penguins towards the bottom of that frame. So Quinn, you're asking if the chicks can swim from birth. If you're talking about the crazy eights, then yes, they can. So the crazy eights are what we call precocial. So any bird that is born precocial is born ready. They're born ready to swim. They're born ready to face the world. Most of your ground nesting birds are precocial because they have to be. They won't survive if they are naked and afraid. So a lot of your birds that nest in trees are born naked and they require a lot of parental care. But your Egyptian geese, those chicks, I think we saw the chicks on the second day that they had hatched. Second or first day, because we're here every day. We haven't seen them and we've seen them pretty much every day since then. So I think we saw the crazy eights pretty much as they came out the egg. And the parents got them swimming straight away. If not the first, then definitely the second day of life. So they are born ready.
If you are a WildEarth explorer, we have exciting news for you.
The winner of this month's prize giveaway will win a hamper full of Explorer merchandise.
Like this fantastic t-shirt that comes in plenty of great colors, a very useful tote bag, or even a cap.
For those in the southern hemisphere that's heading into winter, a sweatshirt to keep you warm.
Head over to the WildEarth Explorers page. Sign up to be a WildEarth Explorer and you could win all of these goodies.
Wild Earth, it's in your nature.
I'm not going to come too close because I know you got your babies. And hello, you old friend. Isn't she spectacular?
Oh, look, it's just too special. She's such a fantastic mother.
Look at that, isn't that incredible?
So we're looking at the waves again. We just had 3 penguins pass us by, and you might have noticed throughout the show that we've actually had several penguins pass through this passage. And I'm going to take Jason to the other side of the scene here at Penguin Beach, because I want to show you something really cool. So you're not going to see the actual object, but you're going to see where it is. So there's some rocks that you might see past the brush. There's some rocks and a fence. And with these rocks, rather, this is leading the way to a penguin scale. So here at Stony Point, they've actually put up a scale where every time the penguins walk by, they can weigh the individual penguins, so they can see what the penguins are doing. They can see when the penguin leaves, they can see what the penguin weighs when they leave, and then as the penguin comes back, they can see how long the penguin was away and how much fish they caught depending on their weight. And so this is an incredible study and incredible work being done here by BirdLife South Africa and Cape Nature. So we just see the penguins pass, but every time they do, they can actually see what these penguins are doing, what they're getting up to. And that allows us to better protect penguins and manage the areas where penguins live. So it doesn't look like much, but I think it's such a cool concept. And we are now looking at the water again, and it looks like crazy eights are coming back in. Arctic Circle, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope that you enjoyed the information about the Arctic tern. Crazy eights have just come back in strong, and you're asking what other geese and ducks we get in the area. So I've actually seen, not at Stony Point, but along the Overberg coast, I've sometimes seen yellow-billed ducks by the sea, which I find very interesting. You actually get quite a lot of different ducks and stuff in the area. So we have the ocean here, and in terms of ocean-going ducks, you would only really find the Egyptian geese. But next to the oceans here, we have wetlands and estuaries, and there you'll find things like Egyptian geese, you'll find things like Cape teal. You can see things like furvolous whistling ducks if you're very lucky. But certainly on the ocean, I've only ever seen the Egyptian geese. I've seen the yellow-billed duck, and then I've not seen it, but I have friends who have seen spur-winged goose on pelagic seabird trips. So they were looking for deep-sea seabirds, and they found a spur-winged goose. I believe it was about 10 kilometers offshore, which is really incredible. All along the Cape Coast, we have these estuaries that run into the ocean. But very few birds are as adaptable as the Egyptian geese in terms of occupying both the ocean and the inland areas. The white-breasted cormorant is another example of an extremely adaptable bird species. But most birds either choose salt water or fresh water. And I think most of the other duck species that we have in the area prefer the freshwater habitats. So I really do think that mommy is swim training these ducklings, just moving them up and down.
All Wild Earth explorers have a chance to join our naturalists in a monthly fireside chat. This is a great way to learn more about our guides, animal characters, and wildlife locations. We would love to hear from you as to the topics that interest you the most. Email us your ideas or tweet using the hashtag WildEarth, and we will be sure to take them into account when planning our evenings around the fire in the future. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
Watch out for southern ground hornbills. If you see one, then a curse could befall you. Seeing a hyena could bring out the witches, and spotting a snake track could give you a rash. On Friday the 13th of May, WildEarth will be setting off on a special Unlucky Safari, where we search for things that bring bad luck. Are these just mythical superstitions, or could they be true? Join us to find out.
So we've got a couple of dussies in front of us, and there's one dussie who seems to be on the move. The one we're looking at is having not a nap, but certainly a rest. I think the dussie's eyes are open. And the younger dussie is a lot more active and is chowing down on some June spinach. So dussies are only active for a couple of hours a day at most. They don't have to be active for very long periods. So where other animals like elephants will feed all day long, the dussie will feed for a couple of hours. They will fill their stomachs because they've got a massive bite. So they can eat very quickly. They can eat large amounts in a very quick period of time. And this dussie looks so peaceful, enjoying its meal. Almost looks like it's enjoying the view. Go and find us some African penguins. It's Penguin Beach after all.
Look at that, there's a tiny leopard cub. Karula has given birth overnight. Look at the little guy, we just came around the corner. That is incredible, that's probably his first solo kill.
Oh, that is wonderful. Oh, and have a look, here comes Osana with the monitor lizard.
Osana, of course, at the same time decided to go climbing up the tree. He's just nearly fallen out of it again.
Look at that, he's running away. The buffalo is chasing Osana at the moment.
My heart rate has gone up slightly. In fact, it's gone up quite a lot. This elephant is now 2 meters from us. Okay, we might have to move here. No? Yes. Sorry, my friend, but you're about to push that onto the car. You see how cross he was that we didn't want to watch him push the tree over. That's why we moved.
So So we've moved along to Cormorant Cove again, and I can see that there's one cormorant there who is doing a mating dance right on the top of the rock. And in this frame, it feels really desolate. If you didn't know where you were, you wouldn't think that we had many people around. You'd think that you are on an offshore island. And that is the incredible thing about being at sea and living on the coastline, is that you've got that access to the wild right at your doorstep. And I do like to do this. I do sometimes just like to pretend that there are no other people around and that I'm the only one in a wild space. I find it very calming. Carl, that's a really good question. The best thing about Penguin Beach? For me, honestly, the best thing about Penguin Beach or any environment that I work in is becoming really in tune with it, and then watching the lives of the animals that we know play out. Like, I love watching like the crazy eights grow up. I was visiting Hope this morning, so Hope's doing really well. I got some photos that we might share on our stories later. I got a little video. I think it's feeling really connected to the environment that we're in. That's my favorite thing about it, is really feeling like you're part of that environment and watching as the life cycles change and the seasons change. That's part of why I love being a guide, is that you're kind of right in it. So that would be my favorite thing. Jason, what is your favorite thing about Penguin Beach? What would you say is the best thing about it? So Jason says he loves the fact that in such a small area you can see such a diversity of wildlife. For him, that gets him really excited. It really is different things to different people. And Carl, what's your favorite thing? What is your favorite thing about Penguin Beach? I always like to ask people that question back. I always love to know what people's favorite things are. I think this is Mark from Mark and Cleopatra, who's having a nice clean. Although the legs are very pale, I was going on the fact that this is quite a chunky goose. It could be very wrong.
Tingana has been affectionately known as the Duke of Juma for many years, but his path to the throne was not an easy one. Mvula was a legend from the south.
This is the cat that I'm pretty sure Tingana was sniffing around for. That is Mvula. How exciting is this?
Eventually, Mvula lost, but his young son Quarantine started to push through from the east. At the beginning of 2018, an intruder arrived. His name was Hukamuri.
So we're just getting some stunning views of this Egyptian goose, and you can see the caul on its chest, the spot that gives it the name Kolgans in Afrikaans. And this goose is just having the most wonderful time preening itself. It's really getting involved, ruffling up all the feathers. And those feathers look so fine and so soft on this goose. I think it's a bird that we don't often look at closely enough or carefully enough. Dark Moon Lover, thank you for joining us. You want to know what kind of snakes we have at Stony Point. And I do love that all of the regular viewers, like, I love the way that you always want to know everything that we have here. I think that's so cool. So the snakes that we would have here, what would definitely be around is you would have puff adders. We have a lot of puff adders in the area. So you often see them on the roads at night. You might have mole snakes. Apparently the mole snakes will actually go for the eggs of penguins at times. You'd get some grass snakes. You get different species of grass snake that would be around. I'm trying to think, Cape Cobra. We might have some Cape Cobras around in the brush, which is not the friendliest of snakes that you've ever met in your life. What other snakes might we have here? I must admit my reptilian knowledge is very basic. So in terms of the smaller snakes, I know that we get the grass snakes, but the exact species I can't exactly tell you. A lot of them look to me quite nondescript because they've got it'll be a little grey snake or a little sort of grey and sort of khaki snake, and you see it only momentarily. But I have actually seen a snake right on the rocks once before, and it was a grass snake who was hanging out and just catching some sun. But I'd say certainly in the area, the most numerous snake that you would see is the puff adder. And then there are these small little snakes that the grey heron that we saw yesterday will sometimes catch. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go have a read. So this is unanswered question number 3, because I'd like to actually get to the bottom of it. I'm going to go have a read and see what else I can find in terms of those small nondescript snakes and see exactly what we might have. So thank you for your question, Dark Moon Lover. We will investigate that. And we will try to show you these things. We do hope to show you a diversity of other animals on the show. We do always have a look out for them. I think we've had a very quick show. It's gone very fast for me. I want to say thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate you tuning in. Please do tune into the Fireside chat tonight if you are an explorer. If you're not an explorer yet, you can become one and you can watch the chat. Graham is a real visionary and he's looking forward to expanding WildEarth, so we're excited to see what he says tonight. And on behalf of Jason and I, thank you so much. The safari team are out and about this afternoon. Hopefully we'll have some leopards and some other wildlife. Let's spend the last couple of moments just watching the ocean. And I hope that you've had the most wonderful Saturday. And we are going to be seeing you again tomorrow with all those unanswered questions.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.